Welcome to Fundraising Stories with Female Founders. I'm Julia Elliott-Brown, the founder and CEO of Enter the Arena. I'm a serial entrepreneur and an expert in raising investment and business growth. Our mission at Enter the Arena is to empower female founders to fly through pre-raise and investment and onto the exponential growth of their business with investment expertise and business coaching. Here we share the stories of inspirational female founders who've raised investment to inspire you to do the same. You'll hear their honest accounts of what it was really like to secure funding, the highs, the lows, and the challenges they experienced on the journey. And along the way, we'll discuss top tips for how you can be successful too. Today I'm speaking with Yang Liu, the founder of the men's clothing brand JustWears, which is a direct-to-consumer brand that brings biodegradable materials and ergonomic design into everyday menswear. Their first product line is innovative men's underwear featuring the Palace for Your Phallus pouch design. And it seems we're on a bit of a roll with interviewing founders in the underwear sector on this podcast. You might remember we featured Priya Downs from Nudea Underwear recently. And a while back, I spoke to Emily Bendel from Blue Bella. So this is a sector that's clearly quite interesting for venture funding. But today it's men's underwear we're talking about. Now, despite arriving into the UK at 23 with nothing but her broken English, Yang followed a career working in venture capital before starting JustWears with her husband, which led to her being awarded Highly Commended Entrepreneur of 2019 by the NatWest Asian Women of Achievement Awards. And she was also recognised as exceptional talent by UK Home Office. After raising an initial angel funding round, Yang appeared on Dragon's Den, and then in 2021, she raised a whopping £2.6 million of investment to grow the brand. So I cannot wait to find out more. Welcome to the show, Yang.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, it's great to see you. I've just been having a look on your website. Very happy to see all the lovely male models there sporting your underwear. And I love all your play on words and all the innuendos that you use in your marketing. It's really clever. It's a real brand differentiator. But I'm really intrigued to know, because there are obviously loads of underwear brands out there. Tell us a bit more about JustWears and the gap that you're filling in the market with the brand.
Absolutely, yeah. So funny enough, when I started the business in 2018, I think there's just a number of upcoming underwear brands. And now seems like there are more and more people diving into this market. Clearly, this is a very hot market now. Yeah. Who would have guessed underwear would be that hot, that popular, right? Yeah, so a bit about JustWear. So where we sit in the market is really, when we first started out, we're one of the very, very few companies who actually have a laser focus on bringing biodegradable materials and ergonomic design into the everyday menswear. If you think about when we're talking about men's underwear, the first impression jumping into our mind is either Calvin Klein or Mark Spencer's, right? And Calvin Klein is kind of the everyday wear, it's easy, convenient, it's a reputable brand. Every British to go into the supermarket, and very handy to pick up some basic wear and when they check out. And Calvin Klein more as a established brand that really stand for that kind of very sexy look, a posh, high fashion type of taste. And in between, there's just no single brand that coming out that actually not just appealing to the average man who's not as sexy as David Beckham on Calvin Klein's advertisement, or any product that really focused on deliver comfort, creating the most comfortable, ergonomically fit underwear for men. So when we spotted that opportunity, we were thinking, well, how can we come up with a brand with an exceptional product that really focused on producing the most comfortable underwear, in the meantime with the most approachable marketing, language, branding to make everyone feel comfortable to fit in. And this is when JustWear's idea first come up. And as we do more market research, we actually learned a lot of men are actually suffering from like riding up, chafing, or like daily sweat, especially people who have a more active lifestyle. Their existing underwear riding up, all this kind of like functional problem are not really addressed by existing product. And this is the third layer of like a JustWear's product feature about is really using our design to address this functional problem to make men's like a base layer really comfortable and fit well.
Yeah, and they look amazing, and I just love all the marketing you use. I mean, you must go and have a look at the website, everyone, because there's pictures of lots of fruit and bananas being put into pans and things like that. So it is really fun, and it's, you know, I have to say I haven't seen anything like this in the men's underwear sector, you know, at all. So it's kind of fun. So you started out with this business with a rewards-based crowdfunding campaign, didn't you? So tell us a bit more about that. Did you do that before you'd even produced any product?
Yeah, so when I first started out, like I didn't have too much money to invest into the business, and I don't know if there's just a crazy idea or of mine or actually have a product market fit. So I learned about, I have done a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter for another business I used to work for. And that was quite a bit of success, but not to the same level as how JustWear ended up. And having that experience, I understand how powerful the crowd could actually could be a game changer for the business. So after discussing with my co-founders, we all think this will be a really like a accessible way for us to kick off our business. If we're successful on Kickstarter, reach the goal, at least we are validated by the crowd, by the early tester. If unfortunately the result is not ideal, then we can cut to the end like sooner than later before investing further money and energy into it. So that's how we got started.
Yeah, and that's such a great way to, as you say, test product to market fit when you're not sure. But I mean, I know you were going to raise 30,000 and you ended up raising 150K in that rewards-based crowdfunding. So how did you manage to surpass your target by so much?
Yeah, I mean, it was really surprisingly good results. Like none of our team member actually started the campaign with the expectation on we will end up like more than 5 times over our goal. How exactly we did as a team, we spent almost like 10 months to prepare for that campaign, specifically on product development and building that community who understand not just the product, but also went through that kind of growing process with you. Like starting from 10 months ago, before we launched the campaign, we were already telling every single friend around us that we're going to do this, and inviting them to join our mailing list or like a closed group, like a community, to really just share our little progress with them, to make them feel like they're part of our journey. And by the time we launch the program, we already have like over 1,000 people who are happy who are already involved in that ecosystem. When we launched it, just like everyone is so supportive because they're not just heard about us that day, they have been informed or involved in our progress for about 10 months. I really think it's the power of the crowd and the support from people, word of mouth, help us to nail that target.
Yeah, that's really amazing that you built that list before you even launched. I think that's really good advice for others to take on board. So you had that £150,000 to get you started. So did you use that then to produce your first run of underwear and to launch the business?
Yeah, exactly. Like the money we received from Kickstarter, we invested into the product development and the manufacture, and a small bit was invested into the first website we created. I remember we didn't have too much money at that time. We have to go on like people per hour to find like a developer who knows based where like in the world, and build like a really crappy website, but it worked. Like it supported us for probably the first like couple of months before we properly developed our website.
Yeah, but you can, you can't do everything perfect at the beginning, can you? You just kind of got to get it out there. Just get something out there, see what happens. So the business started to take off a little bit. So how long was it then before you thought, actually, we're going to need to go and get some equity funding to go out and speak to investors?
Yeah, so as a consumer business, I mean, every business costs money, right? As a consumer business, because to be able to sell product, we have to pre-invest into inventory. Even though we have cash, but majority of the cash we're investing into making and buying the product. And then it comes to like store warehousing, finding warehouse to store that. By that time, we realized even though we have like we have asset on the balance sheet, but the cash is really a problem. How can we find the cash resource to invest into the growth? Is that challenge we had when we have the product ready to sell. And that was around probably I would say half a year afterwards, 6 to 10 months after we are successful close like a Kickstarter, I realized, well, we not only needed the product, we also need the cash to invest into growth. And this is when I start to talk about fundraising.
Yeah. So here's the interesting thing. So you worked in the venture capital industry before you started this brand. So did that give you, do you think, a real head start when it came to finding investors to back you on that first round?
I would say it's definitely helpful because I understand how the industry works, like what is the process like. And I make making a pitch deck was not that challenging for me, and putting the essential information on pitch deck to get attention is not that challenging. But what I learned is being in VC as an investor versus fundraising yourself are two completely different things. And it's always seemed much easier to be on the investor side rather than on the like entrepreneur side. And that is a very different power dynamic, like to start with.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that. But like you say, you had that advantage in knowing what about the process, knowing what had to go into a pitch deck or a forecast. That must have been helpful. So,
that was really helpful, yeah.
Yeah. So that first round, so who did you go and speak to then? Who did you get on board for that first equity fundraise that you did? Was it angel investors that you got on board?
Yeah, so actually I started it by speaking to VCs without knowing too much about I thought it should be very straightforward because I haven't seen so many companies like start their business by going to VC directly and get a huge amount of investment without even a product, right? And at that time, we already have a product. We have like a certain early traction from the Kickstarter campaign. I thought it would be much easier to raise from institution. I was very quickly proved that was wrong because the traction was too small to actually get interest from institution. That learning quickly shifted my focus towards to speaking to more angels who are more appealing to maybe SCIS, CIS, like a tax relief, and who also have the passion to support the entrepreneur. Later on, like now we have been running this business for multiple years, and looking back, I really appreciate this to have this early angels on board because they just bring so much dynamic of expertise into the business in the early stage. And these people not become your investor, but also they are your word of mouth like supporter. They have been telling our brand to their friends, their family, and then promoting us. That is way much more powerful than having a VC, just a single team, single name to have adding one portfolio in addition to their hundreds. So that is a bit of learning we had.
Yeah, I mean, it's very common actually that founders immediately think, I'm going to go and speak to the VCs, because that's what we read about in the press. But like you quickly saw, actually, most of those venture capital firms are looking for quite a lot more traction or proof of product to market fit before they want to get involved. So yeah,
Totally.
and as you say, the kind of the UK tax scheme for SEIS and EIS is very attractive, isn't it, for angel investors who get on board early. So where did you find the angels then? Which rocks did you look under to find those princes that weren't frogs?
Yeah, that feels so long ago. But I do remember, like, when I did raise my first round, I pretty much tapped it into every single pitch event, regardless big or small, official or unofficial. If it's like small event, I would just use that as the practice round to get some feedback, and until I 100% nailed my pitch, my investment, like presentation, and then I would go to a bigger one. And from there, not every pitch would generate any direct investment, but it gave me an opportunity to promote the brand. And if people are interested, they're more likely to come to me to say, hey, I know XYZ people, you should talk to them. So that was a really helpful process. And from there, this kind of conversation or exposure leading us to more relevant people and individuals. And by the time like we're making more progress with the traction, with the trading numbers, it just feels more natural to close the deals or close the investment conversation as the process progresses.
Yeah. Were there any particular pitch events that you remember being really good, like top two, three that made an impact for you?
Yeah, so around that time, I was involved in charity organization called New Entrepreneur Foundation. It's run by Nita. Like, she is amazingly supportive to all the, not just like a female entrepreneur, but diversity entrepreneur and the young entrepreneur. Like, she gave me so much like a help to help me speak to people who are relevant, who are relevant to our business. And they organize like a demo day every year, and that demo day we're allowing us to pitch our idea to an audience of like 30 to sometimes even more, like hundreds, like relevant people who are senior in their industry. And these people either become my advisor or mentor or like investor. That is really, I found the most helpful alongside that journey.
Yeah, so the New Entrepreneur Foundation, and yes, Nita is an absolute force. I believe she's stepping down as CEO, so I think she's moving on to new ventures at the moment, but she has done an amazing job with that organization. So it's great to hear that you benefited from that. So how many angels did you have on that first round? Do you remember?
Not that many. The first round we probably got like 7.
Okay, good. So yeah. a nice handful, not too many that you have to manage.
Yeah. Like some of them are like invest together, so it's more like managing one person rather than individually.
Yeah. What was the hardest thing about getting that deal over the line? Because trying to round up 7 investors together, was that easy, or were there challenges?
It was challenging. Looking back, it was challenging. Now I can sit down here to say, no, it's not, but that was not true. I think when I was in that process, that was the first time I do fundraising by myself. And I got a lot of no's alongside of the journey. And because it's my first business I run as a founder, I took so much more responsibility, and it's my baby. Every no, every rejection I got around that time, I would take it personally, and I feel so bad about myself. I beat myself quite hard around that time if I didn't get the results as I wanted, and I would question myself if I did something wrong or if I'm not good enough. If I had done this, maybe they would change their mind or something. There's just a lot of scenario I play in my head. I think I chatted with a lot of female funders. I think this is quite common to hear that we tend to take like rejection personally much easier compared to male funders. Not trying to generalize things. I just think like we all kind of share this kind of find this quite relevant. But as I do more and more pitch, and I really understand like fundraising is a number game. It's a game of number. The more no you get, it means you get closer to a yes.
Oh,
And
I
once
love that.
that is, yeah, once you make that sense, like that, once that mindset changed, the whole, I feel like my approach to fundraising just changed completely. And I feel happier when I get no. It's like, yeah, let's move on, next one.
That's fabulous. The more no's I get, the closer I am to a yes. I'm going to use that. That is fantastic. And that's really interesting what you say about kind of women feeling that. I mean, because you're in business with your husband, aren't you? Is he your co-founder?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I started by myself first, and then he joined later.
Okay. So did you ever pitch together, the two of you? Or was it always you pitching?
We have a really good dynamic. Like oftentimes, like I would go for the first meeting, and as the interest like progressed, then he would do a second follow-up meeting to go a little bit deeper into numbers, traction, and business strategy. And I think we are very complementary in terms of skill set. He can go as deep as possible as every single numbers, and I'm more on the vision of the brand and where we're heading to. When we do pitch together, I feel like I'm really fortunate. My partner is really supportive. He was never fighting for shining on the stage. He would give me the space to show investor where our vision is, and then if he need a backed up with number, that's where he come in.
Excellent. So it sounds like a great partnership on every level. Okay, so you did your first angel round, you got it done, got all those no's, but it led you to the yeses, and then you decided to go on Dragon's Den. So how did that all come about?
We actually received a Dragon's Den, like multiple Dragon's Den invitation email to our customer inbox. And in the beginning, like I have been dealing with customer inbox all the time because we didn't have the people. I can't believe that was legit. So I ignored the first like 2-3 emails until randomly my co-founder like said, "Oh, have you noticed like a BBC reached out to us to be on the show of Dragon's Den?" So yeah, I saw it, but I'm not sure if that's true. I just don't believe people will reach out like so randomly like that. I thought, well, there's no downside to reply to them, right? Why don't we just give it a go? And that really reflects on our journey. It's like there's so many opportunities come across to us that our mindset is like there's no downside of trying. If it's a no, then it's a no. But what if it's a yes?
Yeah.
And from there, like we had a screening section with them, and they invited us to BBC to do like a mock pitch. And then from the pitch, we went through a long selection journey and the due diligence. Eventually, they invited us to Liverpool to do the filming.
Okay. And how did it go? Did you get any offers of investment?
Yeah, it was a really thrill experience. Like I'm like an immigrant entrepreneur coming here and being on the most popular, probably one of the most popular podcast in the world. It was just so exciting. We got 2 investment offer on the site, and one from Taj Navani, another one from Tuka Solomon. We didn't take it. Instead, we went for the angel investment, as I mentioned before.
Okay, yeah, but I imagine the exposure for the brand to be on television. Did you see a direct impact on the business from being on the television?
For sure, I believe that. I think as everyone knows, Dragon's Den it's television. Like it has to be entertaining. Like depends on the results, whether you take the offer or not take the offer. The content eventually present to the audience will be slightly different or dramatically different. And for us, it's like we don't look at in a way as bad or good. We look more at like being on that dragon stand show is one of life opportunity that really not just good for the business, but also it's a personal experience. So we really appreciate to have that opportunity to be there. And as a result, the brand also created some brand like credibility as well.
Okay, but yeah, what an opportunity, and well done for taking it. That's great. Right, so that show was on in 2020. I mean, you know, so it's actually only been a few years really since you've been running the business. And then last year in 2021, you went out for a much bigger fundraise, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this time you decided for a different approach. You wanted to go down the VC route.
Yeah.
Okay. So how was that? How different was it on this much bigger raise than in your previous angel funding round?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest difference is more about to understand the investment return, to understand what your investor expect you to return for their money. Like as the angel investor, like they probably don't expect the business to grow 100 times. That's a huge money for any investor. But as an institution, majority of VC would expect the business to have that kind of 100 times like growth rate to be able to return the fund. And that difference, that investment return profile difference, decide how the business strategy would be like, right? Like for any product business, for most business, it's probably easy to reach the first like 6-7 figures, but from 7 figure to 8 to 9, that is really a big question for scaling. And with VCs or with the institution, they care more about what's your strategy to get on that hyper growth like path. And that takes a lot of time to really think through the strategy.
Yeah, because it's quite difficult, isn't it? I think, you know, consumer business, e-commerce, product in your sector, that's the challenge, isn't it? It's the metrics around the growth. Did you?
Yeah.
And what they're looking for is that huge scale. So did you have to do a lot of planning and thinking around the global opportunity for the brand? Was that part of the pitch?
Yeah, so market, like the size of the market, definitely something they consider. But I don't think that there is one like secret sauce or magic like a metric is crucial to the investment. I think it is a combination of multiple factors that include: do you have a solid business foundation? Do you have a great team like who have relevant experience to scale the business, to executing on that business plan, and how committed and dedicated the funding team are to the business? And do you even consider what would be your exit strategy look like? I think it's more of a combined factors for them to consider rather than just having one metric that doing incredibly well.
Yeah. Okay. And with this round, I mean, again, did you find a similar process of having to go through a lot of no's before you got close to the yes? Or did you manage to zone in on the yeses a bit more quickly this time?
The honest answer is yes, this round is so much quicker than previous one. But we also we took a different approach. Previously, when I did my first round, because I didn't have experience of fundraising, I was pretty much learning by doing and learning on the spot. Like there was no process or system to follow. But this time, like we really sit down, like me and my co-founder sat down like for probably every weekend, just trying to, with no disputation, just mapping out what is our strategy look like from here to the next 5 years, and what would be potential access plan look like, what would be what are the like North Star metrics we need to achieve. We have a really clear picture, and then we present that on the investment presentation. And by the time we get into our first meeting, we were very lucky. We got a term sheet the next day, right after our first investment meeting. We just connect with our investors so well. Like it just went much smoother. And from there, since I did it differently this time than last time, is I already lined up with a list of investors I want to speak to, and having them like pretty much every week I had 20 calls or meetings lined up one by one, allowing them 2 weeks to reply to us after the first round or second round of the conversation, and then allowing another a week to answer any due diligence related question. So we managed to get through all the conversation within like 5 to 6 weeks, and then that really put us in. When we compact the fundraising process, it's not just for the benefit of efficiency, also keep our sane, you know.
Yeah, I mean, keeping your sanity has got to be a fairly top priority, I think. But yeah, I mean, that having that absolutely, you know, really well thought through strategy and a really clear action plan, that makes all the difference, doesn't it, in terms of running it efficiently. And yeah, amazing that you could squeeze it up into such a short period of time. But that's right. What you want to do is get the money and then get on with building the business, not spend your whole life raising investment, which is really.
Yeah, totally. And also I think the momentum really matters. Like I didn't know this when I did my first fundraising. I dragged it too long, and when it dragged so long, I lost my momentum, and sometimes I just feel like, oh, when can this be done, right? I want to go back to the business, running the business. But this time I feel completely different. This time it's like, I have a clear goal. I'm going to get this done in 2 months. And by the end of 2 months, like in that 2 months, I'm not doing anything but fundraising. That's my top priority. And we know we'll get there. And we just need to cover every conversation we want to have with the investor without feeling regret at the end.
Yeah. Wise words. Brilliant. Amazing. Well done. What a great round as well. 2.6 million. So just before we finish up, do you have any kind of pearls of wisdom that you would like to share with other female founders who are out there thinking about raising investment? What would be your top tips for them?
Yeah, so I think I have a quite different experience, because when I moved to UK, I really don't have any network or supporting group or like alumni in this country. So building a business is really challenging. But what I really learned on this experience is, when you think about starting a business or raising money for it, think of yourself as an entrepreneur first, not as your gender, as your nationality, or any other identity. When we think as entrepreneur rather than female entrepreneur, I think that already set a really strong mindset in ourselves that give us the confidence to tell other people, I'm here, I want to have an equal conversation with you, and you earn that respect by having respect on yourself.
Yeah, that's really wise words, because otherwise if we can allow those identities to become a limiting factor for us, because we see all the stats around how little funding goes to underrepresented founders, and we can go with the wrong mindset, assuming that we're not going to be successful, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it? So
totally.
Yeah. Wise words indeed. Brilliant. Okay, so what's next? What is next for JustWears? Where's the brand going next?
We're investing quite heavily in bringing more innovative product into this market. So very exciting. Hopefully we'll bring our next category in later this year, and to keep that momentum growing, also to really help our customer benefit from our even more comfortable product.
Looking after men's tackle all over the world, I think, is what you're doing. It's good.
I like the tagline. You understand that. You speak the same language as we do.
Exactly. Well, I think what you're doing is wonderful. Congratulations on all your fundraising campaigns, especially the last one. And we wish you all the best. Go and check out JustWears. Look after the men in your life. And if you're a guy listening, I think that the underwear looks amazing. So thank you so much, Yang, for all your time. And we wish you all the very best.
Thank you for having me. This is really enjoyable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Bye. Thanks for following Fundraising Stories with Female Founders. This content is all provided to you for free, so if you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe so you never miss another one. Enter the Arena has helped hundreds of female founders fly through pre-raise and investment and onto the exponential growth of their business. Our first-hand experience, expert guidance, and proven programs help female founders unleash the Wonder Woman inside. To see if we can help you do the same, head over to www.enterthearena.co.uk. I'm Julia Elliott-Brown, and I look forward to talking with you soon.